So Beyonce, Jay-Z, if you happen to be around, you happen to see this podcast, hit me up. You probably got my number, and just we can hang out a little bit. I would like to. Okay, all right.
Okay. Welcome to Bank It on the Bank. We are your favorite couple. I'm so excited that you're here with us today. My name is Gloria Mayfield Banks, and this is my husband,
Ken. How you doing?
We're so excited. Oh, you look so nice today.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my, you're all dressed up. I had to go get my outfit right to be with you.
You did. I didn't want you to be slouching.
We're excited to be with you guys today because we got some things to talk about. We're so glad that you connected with us and follow with us and hang with us today. So this is a great conversation we're going to have.
It's always a great conversation. So we're excited to get started. So let's go. Let's make it happen. So, it's been a good couple of weeks.
Yeah.
What happened this week? What happened this week?
We were traveling this week.
We were.
What a travel day. It's so interesting to watch those who wear masks, those who don't, people getting on. Airports are getting full, people being kind, people being rude. Sort of interesting. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and they were on the plane, and a person on the plane sort of shoved her mother too much. It was too much of a shove. And we got into this whole conversation about no one on the plane said anything to the guy who sort of shoved the mother. So we got in a conversation about that. But I said, it's interesting that people used to speak up for people, but now they're afraid that if you speak up to somebody, that person might turn around and do something.
There's
really
going to be
bad.
a problem.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's a fear that wasn't here before. So, that was an interesting conversation. There's a lot going on in the world. You know what? I don't know if you guys are feeling like I'm feeling, but I just keep saying, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. What else did we find out this week? Looked at Gregory Robinson, I think it was.
Yes.
Who's the director of the NASA program for the Webb Space Telescope, an African American, and we didn't know that until this past week. He's been here in Baltimore at the Johns Hopkins Observatory here, and so we saw that. And then you found that there's a new president.
Let's tell them why we're really dressed up. We're dressed up because Claudine Gay has been appointed as president of Harvard University. When I tell you, between him and her getting appointed to these positions, it was so riveting to see so much
Both of them 52 years old?
Yes, they went to the same kindergarten. I know they went to the same kindergarten.
African-American women, now the head of all of Harvard. Harvard.
All of
So when I first met her, she told me, educational background, and she said, "What school did you go to?" Harvard.
First, I went to Howard, HBCU. Okay, then I went to Harvard. And I was really excited that these two big individuals are making such a big difference in the world. So that was really good.
Yeah, so that was great.
Yeah, get motivated by that.
Yep. So we were in Dallas for 6 days. That's where we traveled to. So that was a good trip. We got a lot of friends in Dallas, so we were at dinner and breakfast every night.
Let's talk just for a second about how I love Dallas. I don't know where you guys live, but I love Dallas. I love Dallas. I love the fact that the restaurants are always new. I love the fact that the communities are always new. I like the fact that the people are always new. I like the fact that the fashion is always new. I like the fact that the shopping, everything is always new. But there's a stability and a bigness of Dallas. I don't live there, but I really do love Dallas.
Yes, you do. So I got a new goal this month. So I started a push-up contest for myself, you know. And so now I'm doing 400 push-ups a day.
Can you guys believe that? And no, seriously. Let's just sit there for a second. 400 push-ups a day. What were you doing before that? Before you were doing 400? 100. Yeah. Right. And then you went to 125, didn't you?
I was doing 100, really 120. And that was since 1999, 120 a day, and all like every day.
Every day, no matter what.
So now a friend of mine started doing some, massive numbers, and he wanted me to come along. So I said, well, okay. So last month I did 300 a day, and this month I'm doing 400 a day, and so that's around. So
how am I doing? How many am I doing?
At least 12,000 push-ups this month. So that's good.
12,000 for the month?
It'll be 12,000, 400 a day. 31 days, 12,400. But I do more than, I've always do more than 400.
You
so
do.
It's 440 or 500 or whatever.
He's down there and I'd be like, go, baby, go.
I know. So I'm trying to get to 100. And so far, my best has been 85. 85
what do you mean
push-ups.
you're
But I'm trying to get there.
I'm going
to get there. Yeah, I mean, when I say try, I mean I don't mean that it's not going to happen.
Try. Yeah, I
right?
It's
going to happen
because you're the one that's always so particular about every single word.
Well, I do, and words are important, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Words are important. So what we say is important. So what we say is what we put out into the universe. That's what we put out there. And so you're right. I should say that will do.
Mark that. He said
100 push-ups
Can
plus.
you say that part again?
I don't know. It's the first time I said it.
You are right.
I don't know if it should come out again. I'm not going to get used to it because I'll never have to say it again, right?
You are
But that's okay. That's all right. But that's a new challenge, and I'm excited about doing that.
What's mine?
22 a day.
Now 25. I moved up.
Oh, you moved up. 25 push-ups a day. There you go. 25 push-ups a day. So
and then
that's
when
good.
I'm doing my push-ups, he's like, that's a little pitiful class. But I'm getting good. I'm getting really good. I'm getting good. It's been great. It's been great. Yeah. Okay, this is sort of fun. We're going to answer this question that everybody's been talking about. Would you have dinner with Jay-Z, or would you take $100,000 in cash? If you had to make that decision, what would you do and why?
Well, that's a good decision.
Isn't that a good question?
That's a great question, I think. And it's different. Like if you said, would I pay $100,000 or would I just not get $100,000? That might be a difference too. You know, that's interesting, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, so I probably would want to talk to Jay-Z. Mm-hmm. You know, because you want to be around people who think at that level. Mm-hmm. You know, Jay-Z, Rihanna, you know, all these people that think outside the box, they think so tremendously big. And you got to understand it. You got to feel that. You got to know that. You got to, and they can impart. And I used to say this. You know, people say, "Why are you reading that book?" And I say, well, if I get one idea out of this book that I can utilize in my businesses or whatever, it could be worth $1 million to me. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference? I read this book. If I get just one idea, can turn the scale just a little bit and make a big difference in my life. Right. And the same thing I think about people like Jay-Z, who has knowledge, who's not afraid to go forward, who's not afraid to try new things, who's not afraid to be the number one. I mean, he goes out there and he does it, you know. And so I would say I would see Jay-Z. What about you? What would you do?
Okay, so that was some great input because it made me think. But I know the answer. I would definitely go to dinner with Jay-Z. And I would definitely go to dinner with Jay-Z for just the reason that you said. You know, every time we're in the space of people who think big, we find out like, oh man, I thought I was thinking really good, but they think differently. Right. They think differently, so therefore they get different results.
And they work differently. I saw this documentary on for Beyonce and the Coachella thing that she did, you know? Oh, and that was, I mean, what she had to go through, just having a baby and working that and you know, organizing that entire event. Her mind is an incredible mind, just like, you know, Michael Jackson, to the way they organize everything, all the music, all the dancing, all the everything. They picture it. It's not the camera's not going to get the. We feel it, but the audience is not going to feel it. All the things. I said, damn, these people are geniuses, and I just like the way they think. I like the way they act, and I like that they're unafraid to go after things. So would I want to be in that company? Yes, I'd want to be in that company. It would be, and I think it would be worth, you know.
You know, I think we need to point out.
So Beyonce, Jay-Z, if you happen to be around, you happen to see this podcast, hit me up. You probably got my number, and just we can hang out a little bit. I would like to. Okay, all right.
Okay, so listen, the deal is that when you get $100,000, what would you do with the $100,000? But if you get a $100,000 idea, it can be $1 million idea or $100 million idea.
Right, exactly.
And if you don't get the idea at that table, don't forget the value of the juices that they give you that start generating your thought process, because now you're going to think differently because they showed you how to think differently. It's one thing to assume how you think somebody thinks, but to actually be in a conversation with them, leading them with questions that you had, will give you so much information. That $100,000 will go fast, but $100,000 thought will go a zillion times for a zillion years and a zillion reasons.
Well put, Sherlock.
Yes, awesome.
Here's a question that is current. Would you take advice from somebody who you would not trade places with?
Never.
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 Okay. And why? Why is that?
Because their advice is not going to be based on their experience. Their advice is going to be based on their opinion. Mm-hmm. And you can get opinion. I would listen and I would have a conversation. But if I'm going to go to someone for advice, it is somebody that I respect because of their experience, because of their wisdom, because of what they've done before me. If I'm going to take their advice, it's usually going to be someone almost at 100% instead of usually that I would exchange places with.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I think a little bit differently.
Okay. Let's be different.
And I think that everybody has something to teach us.
Yeah.
And that's why we meet these people. Mm-hmm. It's a sort of a spiritual thing. You never run into people that you're not meant to run into.
Yeah.
And so even if it's a person that's living on the street and I happen to run into them, it happens to be a face-to-face conversation, they probably know something more about certain things than I know about certain things. You know what I mean? And so even though I might not want to trade places with them.
That's the question, though.
I might not want to trade places with them. It doesn't mean that I do not value them as a human being and value their right to, and they could be brilliant. Some people are living on the street, for instance, can be, a PhD in certain areas, but their circumstances have changed. So you never know. You never know. So the direct question, would I take advice as somebody that I would not want to trade places with? If it's about that kind of thing, no, I wouldn't take advice probably, but there might be other things that they might know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can take opinions, you can be in a conversation, you can learn from anybody. I totally agree with you 1,000%. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to would you take advice from someone about what you're talking about? Would you take, because to me, that's what the question is. Okay, so I'm going to ask you for advice about somewhere I want to go, but you have failed at it. And, there's an example that you used to give about someone who was teaching about money management, and they drive up to your house talking about money management, and they're in a hoopty car. I can't even talk right. They're in a hoopty car. Golly.
Is that why you don't take advice from me?
Yeah, hoopty car, and you can't give me financial advice. I'm not going to exchange places with you. Okay, right. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. See if you can focus.
I'm focusing.
Okay.
I'm focusing, baby.
And so the answer to that question is no. But I think it is important for us to agree that both of us believe everyone has something to offer. Everyone has something to give. Everyone has something of value. This doesn't mean you got to change places with them.
Correct.
I think that our experience makes a difference. We've done a lot in a short period of time, but we've also had people who've poured into us. So if you got a piece of criticism, if we got a piece of criticism, can you remember a piece of criticism that you received that really shaped you and helped you go forward in a more positive way?
Oh,
I know I've criticized.
I think yeah, but I don't pay attention to that at all. It's like asking me to take the garbage out. It just falls on deaf ears, right? Like, I can't hear you. Sorry. A lot of static.
Answer the question.
But so I can tell you about some criticism that most criticism kind of rolls off my back. I'm like, so what? Okay, it doesn't matter. But when I was growing up, I had criticism from, like my father or a teacher. So I told you a story about a teacher that told me, I wasn't very smart. And I was like, I'm smart. You're not very smart, right? So that criticism meant nothing to me. As a 9-year-old kid, it meant nothing. I just didn't understand. I didn't even understand what he was trying to say, right? And so, I've always mentioned to you, I think that was God that's protecting me from those kind of things that just didn't affect me. But also, criticism can help for people to become more successful. Mm-hmm. You can take that criticism. You'll never amount to anything. And I've heard that a couple of times from my father. You'll never amount to anything. I said, whoa, I think you are mistaken, my man. I think you are mistaken. And so you can take that criticism and turn it around and become become more than maybe more than you were going to become because of that criticism. So you use it to turn into use that energy or that feeling of kind of that anger and turn it around into something positive. Yeah. The only thing about that is that then you wind up I wound up like proving to everybody that I was great. You know what I mean?
What was the problem with that?
The problem is that I got to know that I'm great.
Right.
Instead of trying to prove to everybody that I'm great. You see what I mean?
Because you can never get to that point.
You never get to the point, right?
You never get to that
of proving. So,
right.
So criticism can have it has the effect on people that you accept. So when you say something to me, I can either accept it or reject it. And if I accept it, then it can be very damaging. Or it can be constructive criticism, which, you need to tie your shoes, or you need to brush your teeth, be nice to brush your teeth. And that's constructive criticism. Right. And even though it might hurt, but it might help you also if you heed that criticism, right? You kind of heed that criticism. Right. And then some people who don't, who can't take criticism, and people have something to tell them, your fly is open, man. You just kind of nasty looking. Right. But because that person will get mad, don't tell me, Right. Then you can't say anything. People who can't accept criticism, sometimes lose out on opportunities. Right. Right. So I was in and out, right, of criticism, pro and cons, all sides of the arguments. I can't be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. I can't be wrong.
No, let's talk about this one. When you talked about people not being able to accept criticism. Yes. What came to my mind was this conversation I had with a woman who wanted to call me after she had sit in a meeting with me. I ran a meeting for about 2 hours, and she called me after the meeting, like 2 hours after the meeting, and talked to me for about 45 minutes about what she would have done differently at the meeting. My whole mind, while I was listening to her, in my mind, it started out with, well, you've never run a meeting, so I was going like this in my head about somebody I would not exchange places with. However, what I wanted to do was give her and everybody that would listen to her the message that I will listen. Right. I will receive the criticism. Right. What I do with it is up to me, and how I handle it emotionally is up to me. Like you said, how you receive it. Right. But I did want the space of people I was working with to know I'm open to receiving any comments. Right. Good and bad, and always good are easy to deliver, and always bad people contemplate whether they should give it to you or not. I remember getting a piece of advice from a woman. She hugged my neck and she said, you know what? If you would stop traveling, you'd really be successful. Okay, so I stood back, and she was nowhere near where I was in my business, and she had no idea why I was traveling as much as I was, but she felt that she needed to give me that information, and it wasn't a form of criticism. But I immediately did what you did. I immediately, like the garbage, take the garbage. I immediately just cut that out. However, it was a lesson for me, because I've trained with that lesson over and over and over again, that people will say things to you with total authority, like they know what they're talking about, and it's up to you to decide whether that authority, whether even if it's given to you in an authoritative manner, doesn't make it right. Right, and that's life. Yeah, we can always we can only accept. Well, we can accept anything, or we can reject anything, and so we have to be very careful of what we accept. Because sometimes we accept things that it turns into anger or regret, or all of those anxiety, tension, all those negative things. We got to be careful about how we organize our mind, and what we allow in, and so we only want to allow certain things in that are positive, and kind of discard those things which are damaging to us, body, mind, or soul. Yeah, and wouldn't you agree? Like, you have to be really aware of your emotional management, because some people can say things to you and you can't even hear them because you're so mad that they decided to give you this information. Right. Like it just didn't even penetrate. You couldn't even hear what they had to say because you went from 0 to mad in 10 seconds. And so it loses all the power of the conversation. Mm-hmm. That's right. What about somebody told you something that really helped you? A criticism that really helped you. Did anybody ever tell you a criticism that really helped you? While you're thinking, I can think of somebody who told me something that really helped me. Mm-hmm. Because early in my leadership career, I was very easy to lead people that were like me. I had to learn how to lead people that were not like me. So someone sat me down and talked to me about how can I better adapt my leadership style to match the person that I wanted to lead. So they would be more open, be more receiving, be more able to accept my leadership based on the way I was delivering it, and not just this is my way or it's the highway. But I need to see you, I need to hear you, and I need to guide you better by understanding who you are and changing my ways. My responsibility to change my ways to lead people that are different than me.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good. I think that, in my life, there have been people who have given me criticism that I've accepted. I remember one person was saying, that my company, my construction company, should come up with some kind of novel way to separate myself from the competition, saying that construction is a very mature industry. In other words, there's 1,000 construction companies within 20 miles of where I stand right now. Right. And so how do you separate yourself? And I thought about that. And what came out of that was to develop a program, which was, a process or a document, which was able to do commercial construction, interior construction faster than anybody else could get it done. We had all these techniques to get it done faster. And so when I went to hospitals or schools or places that really needed to get the job done quickly, then we were able to
Tell one of those
do
stories.
that. So one of those stories was, I'll tell you, so we're doing some work at Johns Hopkins, right? And it was a relatively large renovation. I think it was 40 beds or something you take offline, and bunches of rooms and
hospitals and beds offline is not good.
It's not good
It's not
because
good.
they were getting $3,000 a day a bed, 24/7, right? 7 days a week, etc. So when you take 40 offline, that's a lot of money, $120,000 a day that you're just taking away. And so if that lasts 6 months, you just multiply 120 times 60, and that's a bunch of money. Millions, right? And so, but one of my first jobs, I went there and I said, look, we can get the job done in 60 days. And everybody else was at 90 or 120, even more. And so we said 60, and there was this big ruckus. Everybody, all my competitors,
they were mad, right?
They said he can't get it done. It's impossible. He can't get it done. Nobody can get it done. Nobody can get it done. And the guy at Hopkins, he came to me and said, look, can you get this done in 60 days? I said, yeah. And he said, it was like, my job is on the line. Can you really get it done?
Right.
I said, I can get it done in 60 days. So we started the job, and we found asbestos. And they had only one company that that would go there and remove it. That took 2 weeks out of my 60-day schedule. And because they didn't extend my piece at the back end.
Just because you found something you didn't know
Just because I found something I didn't know. Wow. They didn't extend the schedule. And so, long story short, we went there, we worked 24 hours a day. I would have 2 superintendents on the job. We knew how to, there's a lot of stuff we would be able to do. We have all our subcontractors. We had daily meetings instead of weekly meetings for all the subcontractors. And so we were able to push that process all the way through to the end. And we wound up being there 2 days, 58 days. We'd have finished the project, and it was beautiful. And we were beautiful. And we were the stars of Hollywood because all that noise that those other contractors were making was impossible. It's impossible.
Right.
Well, I just did the impossible, right? So we had every job that we wanted to after that. That was the thing. But that came from person who said, look, you need to come up with something that's going to separate you, that's going to make you get you in demand for these companies. And so that's an excellent, I think, example for all you entrepreneurs out there who are trying to do something in business. And how can you be the best in the world or something? Or how can you
set yourself apart?
What's the name of that book? Blue Ocean Strategies. It's a great book which talks about that. Talks about being number one in your field, the best that there is. And so that along with other things really helped me to focus on certain techniques and things that would separate.
And that one statement, that one question, that one criticism,
right.
Boom. That's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
How do you look at people when they come to you? How do you look at them and say, okay, this is a person that I want to just talk to and keep it moving? Or this is a person that, hey, I can exchange numbers with them and I can, maybe have lunch with them and continue a relationship. How do you do that?
That's a good question, because a lot of people do ask that question. How do you know that person is genuine? How do you know that person is going to be somebody that should be in your life? And honestly, Ken, I just think you got to talk to people. You have to talk to them. You have to get to know who they are. And it's sometimes more than one conversation. For me, it is a relationship that's built over time. For me, it's a relationship that's built on, I invest in you, you invest in me. How do we feel? What are our values? To me, it's so interesting. What makes you laugh? What's funny to you? If someone downtrodden or you want to gossip and that's funny to you, then that's probably not going to sit too well with me.
Right.
But if you're laughing and lifting, I'm attracted to people who are encouraging. I'm attracted to people who are ambitious. I'm attracted to people who want to make people better than when they found them. So I guess there's a couple of value things to me, but what's interesting is sometimes people who become in your circle of influence, sometimes people become your friends, are the least expected to be there. But after you talk to them, what they look like has got nothing to do with who they really be.
Right.
So that's me. What about you?
Well, it reminds me of a situation that happened to me about maybe 30-something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at this park called Wet and Wild.
Oh my God. When your jaws start getting all like that, he's going someplace crazy.
And I ran into this lady called Gloria Banks, right?
Her name wasn't Banks.
Gloria Mayfield. I knew it was going to be Banks. It was just a matter of time. So, Gloria Mayfield. And what? So, I liked her immediately. I liked that woman immediately. And it was a smile, I think, her genuine smile, which caught my attention. Her upbeat attitude, as you say, the upbeat attitude caught my attention. Her vision for her future caught my attention. So all the things she was talking about. So I think for me, it's got to be an alignment of interest, an alignment of things.
For business and in life.
Well, not necessarily for business, but if you're moving forward, you could be moving forward in school. You can be trying to be a physicist or whatever it is. That's important. But just having a vision, having a goal, and moving toward that, and having a nice personality, and wanting to be caring about people. I think that attracts me, and so
that's not just people you want to date. Answer the question. Just answer the question.
You put your hand on me like that, baby.
You're so sensitive to people touching you. Is that just people you want to date, or is that people you want to have a relationship?
No, that's people, just all kinds of relationships. Why you go back to dating? What's wrong?
Because
I don't date anybody except for you, and I don't even date you no more. We don't went past the dating stage.
Okay, so how do you determine if someone's good for you to maintain a relationship with in business?
Well, that's a different thing. I think in business, you do want to feel good about a person, and you want to feel that you can trust that person, but in business, there are documents behind the trust. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? Because sometimes you get in business with people you don't really know,
right?
And so the documents describe the way your relationship's going to be.
Yeah. Now,
sometimes you can come out of there being friends, or you come out of there not being friends. But you have to live your business relationship according to the documents that you have each signed. And if those documents are good, then there's little wiggle room for each person, any of the parties to get out of line.
That's so interesting. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting, because you're in a business where those kind of relationships do have paperwork behind them. They have structure behind them, financial things behind them, joint venture kind of things behind them. So it's been interesting for me to see you have relationships with some people that become your friends, and then some people that I do the business deal with you, and that's it. That's done.
Right.
And so that's a very interesting place. For me, I don't have that kind of, there's no documents behind it. It's not really a financial piece like that long-term or that deep with so it goes back to what I talked about before, which is getting to know a person over time, and getting to know who's going to deposit into each other's life. But I do really respect that question, because everybody has to be careful. And nowadays, every day with social media and everything, people have to be more careful than ever before. So
it's now it's different, because people. So you're well known, in your world. You're well known, so people can come up to you. People come up to you and say, "Hi, Gloria," all the time, that you don't even know, or you might have met, or maybe you didn't meet.
Right.
But because of social media, people can Google you. They can find out who you are. Where, and so you have to be careful that a person not trying to be your friend in order to take advantage of it. Right. And so that's an important consideration. Now, what do you do?
I'm laughing because when people run up to you and they know you, but you don't know them, it's just so interesting how you react. Yes. It's Ken. Like, you put them on the reserve from the beginning. And that's the difference between trusting Gloria and non-trusting Ken. I'm like, well, hey! I start hugging them and everything. Don't know who they are. Yes. But that's interesting how we do that. It's interesting how we do that.
So the story is, if you don't know the story already, that when we first met, and we were at this big water park in Florida, thousands of people all around, And and at one point I said, I'm just gonna put my slippers and something in a locker, you know, little lockers they have. I said, do you have anything you want me to put in the locker? So she says, yes. And she hands me her pocketbook with her money, her credit cards, her car keys.
You said you're going to lock it up.
And so, I mean, I said, well.
It didn't matter that I didn't know
you. Now, some people, she could have done that too, and she'd never see them again, right? But I said, you know, this girl, she is really trusting. I'll never be that trusting, but she is trusting. And so I appreciated that she would trust me like that. And she told me something about her. That she would not have ever gotten that from me, but it told me something about her. So, you know, it was talking about trust.
Yes, and building relationships.
And building relationships
are important, whether it's from business or in life. So we're so glad that you guys were here with us today. I like your colors today.
You look very nice.
Yeah, I know we really got dressed up today.
We got dressed up today. Yes,
I coordinated with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we coordinated?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And you don't need to know because when we coordinate, you don't like it when we coordinate. So we coordinate.
Okay, we're coordinated. All right. So
we're so glad that you guys joined us today. For real, this has been a great time. Where are they going to find us, kid?
They're going to find us on Spotify or YouTube and Apple, or any place you usually watch your podcast. That's where you're going to find us.
You have got to subscribe. Right here to YouTube. Hit the button.
Hit the box.
You're going to find me on Instagram at Gloria Banks.
And you're going to find me on Instagram
at Official Ken Banks.
There you go.
Because we are what?
Banking on the banks. Some problems out there, right? You know, you come up with your list of, you know,